So this month we're following the theme of love. But not the theme of, romantic love, because I know that turns some people off. So we're not doing that. But we are although I'm kind of excited about romantic love, but I know if you're not in a relationship or if you're not in one that's, really supportive and flourishing, then that whole Valentine's Day is, not that much fun. But I wish you the love of the divine on Valentine's Day and this Valentine's weekend. And that is where we've gone and are going this month. And that is to look at the love of the divine and to spread our wings and fly. And I love that that line was even in your lyrics, how perfect that was, because our theme is on the wings of love. So for us to take that divine love that is supporting us, that is here for us, that always has our back, and then let that empower us to move forth in important and exciting ways. And I love the definition that our founder Ernest Holmes gives for love, and it is simply this. It's in the glossary of our Science of Mind textbook. He writes that love is the self-givingness of the spirit through the desire of life to express itself in terms of its creation, and its creation would be you. Love is the cosmic force whose sweep is irresistible. So this cosmic force that is behind you and through you and as you only wants to express itself behind you, through you, and as you. And that is what divine love is. So we are experiencing this month the idea of L-O-V-E, taking each letter each Sunday and looking at how God's divine love can support us in, for example, the first Sunday, in living in lightness and laughter. And that's what we did with lots of joy the first Sunday of the month. And then last month we had O, and we used that to have a new look at some 3 words that many of us got in our upbringing, of a religious upbringing of our childhood, which were the ideas of God being omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. And we looked at God's omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent love, and how when we look at it that way, it brings a whole new meaning to those words. And we even used, and I want to do it again here today because I loved it so much, we spoke aloud some affirmations from Emma Curtis Hopkins. Emma Curtis Hopkins is a co-founder of the whole New Thought movement, and we're a religious science church which falls under the umbrella of New Thought. And so Emma was very influential in bringing forth New Thought ideas. She was actually a teacher of many of the founders of some of the religions, including Ernest Holmes. Emma Curtis Hopkins taught our founder, Ernest Holmes. So the lineage is lovely. And in her book, Scientific Christian Mental Practice, she gave a series of affirmations, which she said, if we say these on a regular basis and really embody them, that we too will become omnipotent. Those were her words. And I want us to just do a little bit of that series of affirmations. I'm not going to do all of it this morning, but the piece that applies to the omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent. So if you want to play, you can join me in, repeat after me in this. God is intelligence.
God is intelligent.
Omnipresent. Omnipotent. Omniscient. Good. Now, I love it that some of you are doing the power stance. And you remember from sermons before. Science has proven that not only does our thinking affect our body, but our body affects our thinking, because we're one, right? It's one. And that a stance of this open receptive, is very powerful. All right? So, if you want to do this, you certainly can as we do the rest of this. God is life.
God is life.
Omnipresent. Omnipotent. Omniscient. God is truth. Omnipotent. Omnipresent. Omniscient. God is love. Omnipotent. Omnipresent. Omniscient. Oh, that's good. That's good. That was our O. Today's our V. And V does not stand for Valentine's. I want you to know that. It does not. It stands for vibrating with vision and vitality. Vibrating. We know that we're energetic beings. Everything is energy. Everything is energy. This thing we call a podium that looks so solid, it isn't solid really. It's a bunch of vibrating little pieces of energy that are so compacted that it appears solid, but it isn't. Everything is energy and everything is in vibration. So today we're going to talk about vibrating with our vision and vitality. And then next week, for our E, we're going to bring it on home with enlightened enthusiasm. And as I have said previous weeks, I'm very enthusiastic because we're going to have a surprise next week, so you have to come and find out what that is. Yeah. I don't mind just sitting out and reeling it in. I don't mind that at all. So how many of you are familiar with the work of David Hawkins and his book, Power versus Force? Many of you are, and many of you who don't think you are because I've spoken about it before and you've heard it, but you just don't know that. In his book, Power versus Force, David Hawkins talks about different emotions and the vibrational scale on which these emotions live. And there are low vibratory emotions, and then there are very high vibratory emotions. And of course, the higher the vibration, the more attractive, magnetic we become to that which we put our intention toward. So a very high level, not the highest one, interestingly enough, and this has been scientifically tested to show these levels of vibration, one of the very high levels of vibration is love. So our idea today is that if we bring that high vibration of love, divine love, God's love, but as us and through us, that's how it comes forth, as us and through us. If we bring that to our vision, our dreams, our hopes, our desires, our intentions, then we give them a new vitality. That there is a new energy, a new aliveness to them. And I love looking up words, and because, I have a fairly decent vocabulary, and I know what vitality means. At least I have my idea of what vitality means, but I decided to look it up in the dictionary and see what Webster had to say about that word. And I found an expansive definition for the word, which I did not know. I love how God just works things out. I did not know this definition of the word when I chose vitality as a word for today. I have to confess, at least in part, I chose the word because it starts with a V. And I was looking for V words, and then I was like, vitality, I love that. That's energy, that's enthusiasm, that's aliveness. We can bring that to our vision. That would work. But listen to what Webster has to say about the definition of this word. It's so perfect. When we bring God's love, the vibration of God's love to our vision, it has vitality. Vitality means the power or ability of something to be successful. Do you like that? The capacity to live and develop, the power to endure. That's really what I mean by vitality, and I didn't even know that that's what the dictionary said that word meant. The power or ability of something to be successful. When we bring God's love, the vibration of this high-level love to our visions, we give it the ability, we empower it with the ability to be successful, to live and to develop, to endure. Is that the coolest thing? I think that's great. So I'm glad you do too. So I want to take the passage that I read at the beginning of this talk, or at the beginning of this service, on page 288 is where it appears, if you want to write that down and look it up later. Page 288 of our Science of Mind textbook. I had somebody in first service ask if their old hard copy version would have the same page. And so my answer to that, in case any of you have that question, is probably. If it's the 1938 version of the textbook, yes, no matter what edition it is, if it's the 1938 version, there was an early one, 1926, that's not the one I'm quoting from. So if you have the 1926, pages won't match because it's all different. But if it's 1938, no matter what it looks like on the cover, hardbound, softbound, whatever the forward is, it's been reprinted a bazillion times, the pages are the same. So page 288 is the quote. On that page is the quote that I shared. We are going to now pull it apart and look at it and see how it applies to this idea of bringing a high-level vibration to our dreams and giving them vitality through applying divine love. So we'll unpack the quote and then we'll apply. And now I'm seeing people fan. Are you hot? Yeah. Yes, you're not hot. You're not hot, but I think you're going to be outruled a little bit because I'm seeing a lot of people who I don't usually see fanning. When I see women in their 50s fanning, I don't think anything about it. And I'm one of them. I am one of them. I sometimes break out the fan. I don't pay attention, but when I see others doing it, then I think maybe we need to kick it down a bit. So Jorge is going to do that. Thank you, Jorge. So here we go. We're going to unpack, we're going to take little sections of this quote and look at it and explore it and apply it to who we are and our dreams and visions. So the first part, Ernest Holmes is giving us a wisdom. He's giving us some advice. He's telling us to take a look at where we are right now. He says we should analyze ourselves, saying, do I look at myself from a standpoint of restriction? Do I see life limited to the eternal round of getting up in the morning, eating, going to work, coming home, going to bed, sleeping, getting up again, and so on and so on? Do I look at my life that way? You do not have to answer that question out loud, but I do want you to reflect on it a moment. And if for you life has been, or maybe has become, or is right now a drudgery, to it's just, okay, I get up and I do that, and then I do that, and then I do that, and I come home and I go to bed, and then I get up and I do that. If you're there, I'm going to invite a shift this morning. But the first thing we have to do is we have to notice where we are. The first thing to shifting and changing is having an acknowledgement and a recognition of where we are in the moment. It's really important not to do it with judgment or to beat ourselves up or to make ourselves wrong or I'm not doing it right or, I'm so bad. None of that. We don't do any of that. None. Let any of that go. If you have any of that going on, let that go. But simply notice where you are. Ernest Holmes tells us in the textbook many times, I'm going to share some quotes from him in a moment, but many times something profoundly important and extraordinarily simple and obvious. Extraordinarily simple and obvious, but critically important. Would you like to know what that is? Good. Yes. So, are you ready? Yes. Lean forward. I want you to lean forward because I want you to get this because it's so important but so simple. You might not catch it. You're like, yeah. No. You can only begin where you are. You can only begin where you are. You can't start any place else. He says, since we all must begin right where we are, most of us will be compelled to begin our healing work with a mechanical process. Now, I believe when he spoke of a mechanical process, he probably was speaking in part, at least, by our spiritual mind treatment is in one part a mechanical process. It's a 5-step prayer, and the steps are very outlined. So we start there. But I also think he might have been speaking of we must begin where we are, and for some of us, it means we begin just by having a mechanical process, meaning we're just consciously, intentionally changing the way we look at something. Consciously, intentionally changing our thought about something. We may not yet have a feeling about it. That goes beyond the mechanical process. That goes to the vitality of things and the passion, but we have to start where we are. And it may be we just have to start with saying, I am aware that this is how I'm approaching my life. I want to change that. That's perhaps the mechanical process he's talking about. He also said in another spot in the textbook, there is a law of unfoldment which says we can advance only by going from where we are to the place we would like to be. The way to work is to begin right where we are. And he also said, the way to proceed is to begin right where we are. Oh, okay, we've heard that. It is not scientific to attempt to begin somewhere else. It's not scientific. It's also not possible, but it's not scientific. And then the last one I want to share adds a dimension. It adds a dimension, and I would love for you to tell me what that dimension is that he adds to this idea of starting where you are. So he says, no one ever started at the top. Let us be happy to begin right where we are and to grow. So what is the added dimension? Happy. You heard my emphasis of that word, yes? He said, let us be happy. Let's not just begin where we are. Let us be happy to begin where we are and then to grow. Now, the cool thing is, remember on that scale that I was talking about earlier from David Hawkins, that love is a very high vibration energy. Well, the one right on top of love is joy, which is, happiness could be another word for joy. So joy is even a higher vibration than love. Strangely enough, I find that a little interesting, but that's what science has shown us. So when we bring joy, happiness, to where we are, we can really exponentially expand our growth. So you may be sitting there thinking, well, that's all well and good, but how am I supposed to be happy about being stuck in a cycle of, on the wheel, or the hamster wheel, and feeling stuck there and on the drudgery of life? I'm supposed to be happy about that? Well, all right, don't be happy about that if you don't want to. But here's what I would like you to be happy about. See if you can be happy about you've recognized that that's where you are. This morning, maybe for the first time, you've said, oh, I kind of am living my life like that. I've had an awakening, an awareness that that's how it's been going for me. I am so happy to have that awareness. Say that with me. I am so happy to have that awareness. Oh, that's it. Jeannie is my poster child for enthusiasm down there. I love it. I love it. So in that vibration, that high vibration of happiness and joy, I want you to hear these words of truth. Because you are not meant to live in a life of drudgery. The Sufi mystic, an amazing Sufi mystic, Sufism is an offshoot of Islam, where the Sufis did ecstatic dance and they wrote poetry and they chanted to get themselves to a state of enlightenment. Oh, that's next week. We won't go there. But anyway, next week. But the Sufi poet Rumi wrote this. You were born with potential. You were born with goodness. You were born with ideals and dreams. You were born with greatness. You were born with wings. You are not meant for crawling, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly. Learn to use them and fly. You were born not to live in restriction, to the eternal round of getting up in the morning and going to work and coming home and having dinner and going to bed and doing that again and again. You were born to fly. So being aware of where you are is a very important first step for that. And then Ernest gives us some wisdom. He says, so that we can fly and not crawl, he said we must break the bonds, which, restriction, of apparent necessity, and see life as one continuous expression of the infinite self. Break the bonds of apparent necessity and see life as one continuous expression of the infinite self. Capital I, capital S, students of the Foundations class, when Ernest does a capital I, capital S, what does he mean? It's a synonym for? God. So that could just have said, break the bonds of apparent necessity and see life as one continuous expression of God. Break the bonds of necessity, meaning I have to get up in the morning, go to work, and that's what I have to do because it's necessary for me to live this life that I'm living. Not the life that Darius sang about. He's saying about a life that's free and you're going out there beyond what you thought were your limitations. That's the life you're meant to live. So break the bonds of this feeling of necessity of doing these things. He tells us how, by seeing life as one continuous expression of God. Remember last Sunday, I gave you an exercise. We did an exercise at the end of the service where we looked around at everything, whether it was the person next to you or the pew or a piece of musical equipment or the lights, whatever it was, and you were to say what?
So that's what God looks like.
Way to go, Reverend Sandy. Very good. Well, she was awake in Sunday service. That's good. She's been doing it all week. So that's what. How do we want to get an idea that God is what did it say? See life as a continuous expression. There it is, a continuous expression of God. We do that by saying, oh, well, so that's what God looks like. Well, because there's God. There's the continuous expression. That is the way we do that. It's not our job to know the how. It's God's job to know the how. But that is a way we show up in the world that brings about this expansion so that we break through the bonds. And that is by saying to ourselves, so that is what God looks like. So that is what God looks like. All right, so then Ernest Holmes goes on, and he says, as this conception, meaning this idea that life is a continuous expression of God, as this conception gradually dawns upon the inner thought. I'm going to say something about that in a second, but I'll finish the sentence first. As this conception gradually draws upon the inner thought, something will happen in the outer conditions to relieve the greater demands of necessity. So he's saying here, as this idea really, he said, dawns on the inner thought, meaning goes now beyond the mechanical process, goes beyond just the thought. It becomes us. We become it. We know, we embody, we live from the place that Sandy's been living from this week, that it's all God. When we come from that space, full in our hearts and in our minds, then the outer conditions shift so that we don't have to be concerned with the necessities of life anymore because they are simply provided. That's what that says. That's what that says. I want to give you an example of that. And this all of this moves us to, the idea of vitalizing our visions and our dreams. So here's a manifestation of that very statement for me that I want to share with you as an example. So every year I sit at the beginning of the year, the end of the year before, and I write out a narrative with lots of feeling and lots of emotion, lots of gratitude, my vision for the upcoming year. And it winds up being 3, 4, 5, I think maybe it's about 5 pages long. It's got my ministry here at CLF, the life of CLF, personal relationships, finances, travel. I mean, whatever is in my heart to do, which has been planted there by God, to do, be, or experience, then I write it out, and I'm so happy and grateful, and I put it in the positive, and I do that. And then, because I know myself, I know that it's really valuable to read our visions on a regular basis. But I know I am not going to read a 5-page vision like every day. I'm not going to do that. So, all right, I'm not going to do that, then what can I do? Well, I created a shorter version of that long vision, and it's about 1.5 pages, and it's kind of the highlights. It's the highlights of my vision. And that I am committed to reading at least 4 times a week, if not more often. So, that's an all way of explaining and giving you some tools in case you want to do that for yourselves. But I have on that vision that I attend at least one spiritual conference in 2015. Last year, in 2014, I didn't attend any. I facilitated one, our beautiful women's silent retreat, which is gorgeous and amazing, and I absolutely deeply spiritually grew from that. But I didn't attend one where all I had to do was just receive. And I really, this year, said, oh no, I am absolutely on my vision. I'm going to go to at least one. And I chose not to go to our umbrella organization, which is called Anton. Anton is having its conference in April, and it is on a cruise. And I'm not going on that one because, and I will not get on my soapbox about this, but I have moral and ethical objections to cruises. So if you want to talk to me about that, I'll be happy to tell you about my view on that, but that's not the time. This isn't the time or place, but the bottom line is I chose not to attend. So that's a conference that I often go to. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to go to that one. I don't know which one I don't know what. I don't know what. I don't know how. Right? Not my business. How is not my business. Of course, then there's always, when you hear about something, there's always this, at least, is this for you? Wow, that's far away. How am I going to pay for that? Oh, then I have to get a hotel room. And oh, then I have to do my food. And oh, then there's a conference fee. Wow, how? That word again. How am I going to pay for all of that? Any of you ever do that about, your dream? You've got something on your dream list, but you don't know how it's going to happen? Right. Well, I had that. But I really do my best to live what we talk about every Sunday, to live these principles, to come from a place of knowing that life is meant to be full and rich and beautiful and divine, and that everything is God, and to see everything as God. And even when I don't see it, I can move myself to seeing it because I work with myself to do that. So I live these principles, and shifts occur in outer conditions. About 3 weeks ago, I had a call from a friend of mine, dear, sweet, and I adore her, who works for Mary Morrissey's company. Mary Morrissey has many products, including Prosperity Plus. Many of you have taken Prosperity Plus, the classes here at CLF. It's a beautiful product. Well, my friend who works for Mary, and they have a table at the conference, which is next week, for the Centers for Spiritual Living, another religious science organization, umbrella. We don't belong to it, so I've never been to one of their conferences, but they have amazing conferences. My friend is going to, and Mary Morrissey's company has a table at this conference to sell Prosperity Plus, which I could sell with my eyes closed because I totally believe in it. My friend calls me and says, we are short salespeople right now. And I don't have anybody to go with me to this conference. And part of the deal is that when you buy a table and you're a vendor, you have to be at that table the entire time the conference is in session. So if it's in session from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., someone must be sitting at that table. That is obviously physically not possible for one person. I need somebody else to go with me. So Mary and I were talking about, man, who do we get? And Mary said, what about Michelle? She loves the program. She's given testimonials for it. Maybe she'd like to have an all-expense-paid trip to a conference. Oh, yeah, she would. She would. And she did. And so I'm going tomorrow. I leave at 7:20. Flight leaves for Las Vegas is where we're going. Staying at Planet Hollywood. And how fun is that going to be, huh? How fun will that be? And I will put my token quarter into a slot machine and do that. That's the extent of my gambling, is I'll put a token quarter in. So conditions change so that the necessities of life become easier. The necessity of how am I going to pay for that? When am I going to go? I'm going to have to find something. Oh, I am so excited to go to this conference. And I get to pick the sessions I want to go to. My friend Colleen said, you pick the sessions you want to go to, and then we'll work the schedule, the table around the sessions you want to attend. Sweet. So there it is. In demonstration, in manifestation. Now we get to my favorite part of this quote. My favorite part of the quote is where Ernest speaks words of truth with power in all capitalizations. When he capitalizes stuff, it's like an exclamation point, bold, highlighted. This is it. So he says, free yourself forever from the thought that God may be pleased with a life of sacrifice, that the world is any better because of your misery, or that righteousness is more perfectly expressed through poverty than abundance. Know that the greater abundance of every good thing which you are bringing out in your life, the more perfectly you are satisfying the divine urge, capital D, capital R, the more you are satisfying God within you. Here's the full caps. Anything you can dream of, anything you can dream of is not too great for you to undertake if it hurts no one and brings happiness and good into your life. You got it, brother. I am preaching it. Oh, I love that. Those words fairly sizzle with vitality, don't they? Don't they sizzle with vitality? Anybody know who I'm sort of quoting there? Oh, good. Who said that? Yes, Wendy. Nice job. Charles Fillmore. Yes. That. Yep, and here it is. Here is the actual Charles Fillmore quote that I paraphrased this morning. But I want you to know, before I say it, I want you to know that he was 90 years old when he said this. 90. He wrote, I fairly sizzle with joy, high vibration, and enthusiasm, and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. Isn't that great? Yeah. Now, but that's enthusiasm, and that's next week. Oh, you want it again? Okay. You'll probably get it next week, too, since the topic next week is enthusiasm. I fairly sizzle with joy and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that ought to be done by me. Yeah, what a young man, how powerful and beautiful that is. So, I have a question for you. Do you have a dream? Yes. Good. You have a vision. You have that, your version of the way that I have explained that I've done it. You've got your version of that. You've got something that you're working toward, living into, bringing. I'm inviting you right now to bring the vitality of love to that. The vibration of love, which gives new vitality. But there might be also something that in your mind is a roadblock or standing in the way of that vision coming forth. It could be you're wanting to get into the, as Mike Dooley calls them, the house. Thank you. The cursed house. It might be that you're involved in the cursed house. I can't figure out how this is going to happen. Or maybe you see a condition or situation out there that is a roadblock. Maybe it's someone or something that's out there that's a roadblock. What I want us to do, and my invitation to you this week is to, whenever you think about that, that you bring a conscious sense, you choose to bring love to whatever that is. To if it's the part of you that wants to know how, well, bring love to that part of you. If it's a situation, there's a person who said, no, this can't happen, bring love to that person or situation. If it's a thing in the world and, situations have to change in the world, or whatever, an organization has to do this or that, well, send love to that organization. Send divine love. Bring the vibration of love to it and watch the words of Ernest Holmes come into life. Watch the condition out in the world shift and change because you have chosen to vibrate with your vision and at a level of great vitality. So I want to bring our time to a close by reminding you of something and then doing something. And the reminding you of something is our dream teams, which are here to support you in living at a high level of vibration to bring your dreams into manifestation. And we have brochures that we've created here. Thank you, Lonnie, for designing these. They're so beautiful. We have them in the Wisdom Center. We also have them in the Fellowship Hall. And it tells you how to create a dream team. DREAM stands for deserve your dreams, reach for the stars, expect the best for yourself and your teammates, align with source, and manifest your heart's desire. So that's what DREAM stands for. Create a dream team for yourself to help you vibrate at a high level and bring your visions a new level of vitality, because I love this thought from French mystic Pierre thank you, Teilhard de Chardin, there it is, it was just hanging up on my tongue. He said, there is almost a sensual longing for communion with others who have a large vision. Our hearts yearn to be in communion with other people who are also wanting to expand. Listen to the rest of this, though. I love it. The immense fulfillment of the friendship between those engaged in furthering the evolution of consciousness has a quality impossible to describe. Because when you are supporting yourself and others in bringing forth your visions and your dreams, empowering them with vitality, you are evolving consciousness. You absolutely are. So be a part of that through a dream team. So that's my advice and recommendation to you. The second thing I want to do, Drummer Dave, if you would please. As many of you know, we have a dream incubator that sits back there. And at the end of last year, many of us participated in this. We filled out dreams for ourselves personally and for our church as a church community. And I'm asking Dave to pull out 3 scrolls. Thank you so much. Of personal dreams. These are 3 personal dreams. People didn't put their names on them, so we don't know whose is whose. What I want us to do is I'm going to share each one. And your job, we're going to take 30 seconds. Your job is going to be to send the energy to the highest level that you can, the greatest ability that you have. Send the energy of love to this vision. And if it's yours, oh, how fun that's going to be. You just know that oh, yeah. But if you want to stand up and take it, you can. That would be totally fine with me. Oh, I like this one. Here we go. So it says, my highest vision and dream for myself to manifest, experience, and or be in 2015 is my spiritual growth and to get on the practitioner track. All right. So 30 seconds we're going to take. We're going to have a little vision music going on. 30 seconds of just seeing this person whose vision is for spiritual growth and to get on that track of being a spiritual life coach / practitioner is made manifest right here, right now. Divine love. And so it is. So, all right. Well, that one's done. All right. That one's taken care of. Here's another one. Okay, I'm going to cry. Sorry. Because I recognize his handwriting, but I won't say who it is. To continue expressing God by having an ever young mind and body. That could fit for lots of us. To continue expressing God by having an ever young mind and body. Let us just see that happening right here and right now. Sending divine love. And so it is. And our last one, which will lead us into our closing prayer. I love this. My highest visions and dreams for myself to manifest, experience, and or be in 2015 are to be loved, to give love, stay true to my dreams. Let us give love to this dream, to the individual who wrote this dream, and to anyone else who has this dream in their heart. To be loved, to give love, to stay true to our dreams. And it is in great gratitude, deep, heartfelt gratitude, that we know that these visions, and in fact everyone in that dream incubator, are manifested in amazing, beautiful, wonderful ways. That the divine love of God, which has now empowered these three specifically, that the divine love of God empowers each of us. And it brings a vibration of vitality that has never been experienced before in our lives. And so that we move through life now not looking at it as the ever circular wheel that hamster is on, but instead every day is a joy. Every experience is a gift. Our lives are a blessing, not just to ourselves, but to the world. I know that this is so, and so I stand in gratitude for it, and I simply call it good. And know that as we choose to live in that vibration of divine love, that our dreams, our visions, our hopes fairly sizzle with vitality. Thank you, thank you, thank you, God. And so it is. Amen.